Okay, it's 4:30, calling for the Finance and Personnel Committee meetings, Wednesday, November 9th. Call to order, Brandy Flores, Julie Pappas, Larry Herman, myself, Janet Pallmeyer. You want to introduce yourselves?
Oh, Marla, District Office.
Katie, District Office.
And Jack.
And
Okay,
Jack.
and Jack. Okay, any public comment? There is no one present, so we will proceed to item number 3. Adequacy.
Adequacy target, which is a new thing that's on your state report card. So that is kind of the crux of this entire conversation. So obviously the hot button topic here in Beecher is school, the deficit, and things like that. And what are we going to do? What's the plan, Gaham? You haven't said anything. And I told you all along, until I have a better understanding of funding, I can't tell you what the plan is going to be. Well, we took a significant step forward regarding that. So it came back, the ISB did their very special formula, which includes 26 elements. If you guys really would like an in-depth conversation about that, it's easier to show up to my office. There's a 20-minute YouTube video made by IPA on how the adequacy target is found. However, that's not really the important thing. The important thing is to point out that Beecher is at a 65% adequacy target. Out of 927 schools in the state of Illinois, that puts us about 75th on the list of poorest funded in terms of targets. What it basically is, very basic, is it's telling you in this formula, in order for us to adequately educate the students of Beecher, and all 26 of those elements that are incorporated into that conversation, the school district needs to spend $15-ish million. Through local revenue, we get 8.8. So the state has identified us of only being targeted 65% of funded to that goal. Now, part of the plan was that referendum that could have boosted us up. And again, that would have put us in a higher tier. We are in tier 1, which is the lowest tier that you can be. Some of the other surrounding schools are also in tier 1. For instance, Mantina and Moments are both tier 1, they're at 73%. Grant Park is tier 2, but they're at 89%, and Peatone is tier 4, but that means they're over 100% funded. So Peatone is in a very, very good spot. It should be noted they also had their referendum passed years ago for that limited, for the working catch. So, what does that mean? Well, being in tier 1, they then say, all right, so part of EBF, which is when you watch the news, they talk about how state is now funding education another $300 million. They're putting $300 million more in. Well, the law required, back in the day when EBF was formed, that they had to have 100% of schools adequately funded, targeted, by 2027. Well, that ain't happening. What the state has done is the basement or the floor was $300 million. They always could have funded more, but when you tell somebody that this is the minimum, that's what's continued to happen. So as they increase the $300 million, schools are slowly getting more and more. We have a basement of $2.38 million. That is what was always budgeted. When you guys approved the budget in September, that is what Marla puts on there that you guys see. Well, because we are tier 1 funded, we will have an additional $540,000 this year. So we have an extra $540,000 we weren't projecting.
Okay.
Now, to say that gets us in the black, I'm not lying to you folks. I just told you we are $6 million short according to the adequacy target. However, that at least gives us a nice little idea of where we stand moving forward. So as I start making more, what this also allows me to do is come to you guys and say, hey, we don't need to cut all these things yet, but this is going to get us on the path to get to where we need to be.
Okay.
You guys will have a preliminary discussion on the levy on Monday. The levy is taken care of. CPI was 7.1, your PTEL, as you guys know, so we capped that at 5% with a little bit of ballooning is what they call it. I think our truth in taxation here is going to be 6%. The revenue should be around 9.3, up from 8.9 aggregate revenue. So that's where we're at with all of the adequacy targets. So that's when someone says, where are we at, where do we stand? We are vastly underfunded according to ISBE to a point where we're tier 1 status with the state, so therefore they supplement us with a little bit extra money, but not where we need to be.
So like Peatone, for example, since they're 100% funded, they would not get this.
They would probably, yeah, they may get
Just
a couple
as an example.
$1,000, yes. Yep,
Okay.
yep, yep.
So,
Got it.
so where's the fault lie there? Like, why are we so under?
So it's compared to your local revenue. So as I discussed with you fine folks, when we try to pass a referendum, and again, it's when you're only allowed to go up by a certain percent in a PTEL district, your revenue is always capped. And to say that the needs of a student back in good Lord, I'm going to say 1990, I feel like it's a long time ago.
Right?
Right.
The funding of 1990 to 2022, if I go up by 1, 2, even 2.5% each time, the needs of students far supersedes that, not to mention salaries, things like that. So where does that get us? It gets us in a deficit that we're trying to work our way out of, and the only way to work our way out of that, I'm sorry, there's 2 ways of working our way out. Obviously, the first way we tried didn't work the first go round. So option 2 is what I said was going to have to happen, which was increasing fees, cutting positions, things like that, which where it brings us to the personnel part of this as well.
Uh-huh.
As I've said, I wish I could have been the superintendent that had money to spend and wonderful things to be. It's a lot easier to do that. Shout out to my friend in Homewood who got his, who has a nice position to be in. So
Yeah.
he deserves it. He's a good guy.
Yes,
So.
and we appreciate your extra work there that is involved.
Yep.
And figuring this out.
So that's so if you look at our report card, I mean, our schools are still commendable. Our states, our scores are still low because they are across the world. It's hard to avoid. I think the vedette did ask me for a quote. This is one of the things I mentioned in the vedette as well. So I don't think it's this week's. I think it might be next week's.
Okay.
All right. Item 4.
Which brings us into
fees.
the fees. And I know, Ms. Bell, you've been I don't want to say a proponent of this, but you've asked this, and you've kind of said, hey, let's kind of put things in motion instead of kicking that can down the road. So I provided you guys again, it's amazing how different schools are. I mean, if you ask anybody around, what do you do for X, Y, and Z, you'll get a different answer for each one of them. But I kind of put together the best I could. The primary fees that we charge, the general things, being just your school fees, elementary through high school, AP fees, KCC, technology fees, activity fees, and then sports fees. Those are kind of the big ones that you found in most school districts. You'll find other ones. I mean, I guess I could have, what do you charge for band, or I didn't want to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Right.
These are just nice little general understandings of where we stand. You also notice that school in the middle, there's a reason they're 104 when it comes to their adequacy target. They are substantial fees there. And if you look at the far left where Beecher is, we are nowhere near. The closest school you'll run into, and again, we always like to compare ourselves to Grant Park. We're bigger than Grant Park. It's just, I think we compare ourselves to them because they're close, and Dr. Palin's just an amazing person. Shout out to John if he's watching.
So Wise Moments, did we not get information from them, or are they just truly?
So that is true. I talked to Dr. Anderson about that, and that is truly the numbers. They don't, but if you look, they have a $100 to $125 technology fee. So my guess is that they've kind of incorporated everything into them. I can't speak specifically to that.
A big tax thing too. Like their residents get a tax, they get money back and something. I can't remember what business. It was in the vedette, I remember reading that they have so much money from some businesses or something in their community that a lot of their stuff is funded by these companies.
Okay.
The residents actually get money back every year, like a check in the mail.
Wow.
So, but Moments is something they're close to us, and they're in our conference. Yeah,
They are.
Question.
They're not in our conference.
no.
They're near to us, but they're not in our conference.
When you say like, for, like, say the fee that, does that cap, like, it says sports cap?
So-
Is there a cap on fees, like if you have like
In-
7 kids?
In Beecher, yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Is there a cap everywhere else?
No, I did not find anyone anywhere else.
No.
You also notice that we're by far the lowest, and I've talked to a few coaches, they haven't remembered the last time sports fees have gone up.
I'm, every time I owe that, I'm always surprised at how
Yeah.
low it is.
And so, the two things that I've brought to you guys, I sent you, a letter that looked like this to kind of explain the two fees. I think Ms. Belt asked first, let's talk about the technology fee. Adding a $50 technology fee, I think is what Joe Duncan talked about last year or 2 years ago. I'm sorry, it wouldn't be last year.
Yeah.
Brad, it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. That was kind of tabled at the time, but a $50 fee would allow that Chromebook to live its cycle over that 4 years, and it would basically pay for itself. And so that's a pretty standard fee that you'll see. Peatone does not have a technology fee, but they've incorporated other places, Grand Park's 30. And so $50 is a nice clean number.
Yeah.
And that would pay for the, 2 years ago, it would have paid for the Chromebook in 4 years. Chromebooks are a little bit more expensive, they're more like $275.
Does it cover our insurance too,
Insurance in terms
for the
of,
Chromebooks?
so we, at this time, don't have insurance. We have the old one-time policy thing. That is another thing that Mr. Duncan has brought up to me, and we're gonna have conversations about that. If you guys don't remember, Joe brought up the idea of them buying like a $20 purchase, insurance in case of.
Okay.
And again, at the time, it was tabled, but I think that would be an optional fee, or an optional thing for parents. Technology fee would just be
Just a set.
would be a set. And we're living in a digital age. Every kid in this district has a piece of technology, every single one of them, whether it's a Chromebook, iPad. Everybody uses it,
Yeah.
Right.
so.
Now, like, when it comes to the rest of the fees, are you interested in upping any of that? Like,
So
Okay.
I proposed to you 2 different fees to increase.
I see.
Well, can we back up? For
Yeah,
the,
of
you're
course.
talking about the
Just the normal?
elementary normal fees,
Yes, I'm talking regular
Right.
fees, like, because.
registration fees. Right.
Registration fees.
Yeah.
When was the last time they were increased?
That would be a great question that I don't have the answer to. I can look into that.
Like, and we can talk about this, this is just my,
Oh, wow.
what?
When Mr. McCartney was here
Oh,
the
my
last
goodness.
time. that they
Because
were
this is just my viewpoint, that, like, so that the kids don't lose things, I would rather increase the fees so that the kids don't lose things, you know? If we're children first.
Well, it's also more when you have to buy new curriculum and you have to redo that, though, that's millions of dollars coming out of the same fund that we're short of as your education fund. So I mean, that's really technically, your fees are used for students to pay for, and also pay for that curriculum. We did science, I think, a couple of years ago, like right before I got on the board, but that's another thing too, like, how far are we on for all this reading cycles and stuff like that? Because usually every 3 to 5 years, you need a new curriculum.
Sure.
And we're not talking, oh, it's a couple $100,000, we're talking it's a couple $1 million. And if we already have a deficit because, and it's all in the same fund, that's the hard thing.
Right.
That our salaries are in the same fund as our curriculum's in the same, everything's in that fund. And it's hard, those are the things you don't wanna cut, instruction and
Right.
instruction materials.
Yeah.
Those are directly affected
We're in the
by the
business
students.
to educate children.
Yeah, that's,
That's the,
yeah.
I can answer part of that. Your next cycle that would be coming up would be math, and it would be for, not this year, next year. So we've actually gone through in the last 4 years, rotated everything out, so it's all relatively,
But I'm just, like, when will that be a part of the conversation as well?
whenever you guys want to have it. If notice it does say other fees on this agenda, so
I know.
if that's something that you guys believe is something you want to do, if you want to look at the elementary, junior high, high school, high school is obviously the most. If you wanted to just throw numbers out, if you increase both of those to 100, including the technology fee, obviously that would
I feel like,
be something.
like, I'm tied between, like, being proactive, so that, like, down the line, this is, you know, something that can be, I don't know, that we're getting a jump on it, I guess, so to speak. you know, that we make sure that it could offset losing things, like if we have those fees. That's just my.
Or even the math curriculum, I mean, it's Go Math, those are consumables. Every year we buy them for students. It's not a hardback book that you
Right.
can reuse. I mean, so think about every year we're having those expenses. Are our fees even covering those expenses?
Probably not.
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Right.
something, you know, you even think about.
Right.
So it's not just your day-to-day. I mean,
Right.
we're at a deficit off the get-go, like you said, because we just haven't ever increased it.
Yeah.
But we haven't needed to. I mean, we've had the cushion, but inflation and stuff, we're not having the cushion anymore. There-
Yeah.
Can we jump back to sports real fast? If you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think we actually talked about it yet.
Oh,
but-
we haven't talked about it yet? We'll finish
We're
it
all
then.
over.
Okay.
I just didn't get
I
past
know.
the other thing, yeah.
Okay.
No, it's-
Did you have
Well,
anything to say?
Just to Marla, what percentage of fees aren't being paid?
Quite
I
large,
know
I
there's-
don't know, I can't tell you a percentage, but we have
Just
a
a,
large amount of fee waiver
Oh,
fees
that's-
that are
yeah.
waived, a large amount.
Is there some type of, like, is there some type of, not, like, what am I trying to say? That if somebody qualifies, like, how we qualify for free lunch or whatever, is there
That's-
something
that's-
that's?
That's part of,
what you
that's
said.
how
That's
they
what, that
qualify.
is not just
Yeah.
people
Fee
that
waiver.
don't
Right.
qualify but aren't paying? Okay.
Right, yeah.
Fee waiver, thank you.
So do we get funds back from like the state for fee waivers or no?
nope.
No,
No,
kindness of our
That's
heart.
good.
But they still set the state still sets that criteria.
correct. There's a little formula that they put together that says if a person makes this, this is what they are. They do, they do.
Okay.
And so there, yes, there's lots of that out there.
And the school board policy indicates in policy that if they qualify for free lunch, then they automatically, they will qualify. As long as they fill out an application, a lunch application, they will qualify for.
Oh, okay.
fee
And I
waiver.
mean, it's
So,
it's a low amount. I mean, to qualify for free lunch,
Okay,
you really,
okay.
I mean, you're barely
It's
scraping by.
Definitely,
Yeah.
okay.
So, so let's take this one by one here. I promise we'll get to sports. Technology fee. Where you guys, I could have something on your guys' agenda for Monday to have an action item and stop kicking the can down the road, or you can sit on it for a month and we put it in December and Katie gets to deal with it.
I feel like it needs to have a fee, like, we have the devices, you've gotta have money to replace, we can't just keep replacing and buying.
Yes.
I agree.
I mean, I'd even go as far as the insurance, but like you said, you wanna make that optional, but that's just cause if they break it, like you said, if it costs $275 to replace it and they break it, that $50 doesn't cover that. But, like I said, I maybe hear they're better, maybe the cases are better, but we went through we didn't get insurance our first year, and we just went through and.
How many do we go through? Do you,
Paul, do you know roughly how many Chromebooks?
I'm not sure.
I'll get you that answer. It's not like we're shipping out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Most of the things you find are cracked screens, missing, so it normally doesn't cost us $200 and some odd dollars. It's, you know, a $30 thing here, a $20 thing there.
so we're still on the first time we fix it for free, second time onus is on.
Correct. And that's one of the things in the registration packet, when they go through registration, that there's a button that says that.
I agree to it.
I agree to it, I read it,
Yep.
Yeah.
I assume everybody reads it.
Mhm.
So what would you like your action item to be on Monday for technology fee? What would be your recommendation to the full board, I should say?
You guys figure out that $50 is enough, then the $50.
How many students do we have?
Well, it says 50,000,
Yeah,
would project
You're
about
looking at
$50,000.
Yeah, projection.
Go here,
You're-
okay.
You're just a shade over 1,000.
Okay.
And if that's the amount that it pretty much covers the device for the length before we end up cycling them out, then, I mean, I feel like we should charge what it costs the district. If that's what it costs the district, then that's what we should charge. I mean, that's what we're paying.
Okay.
I go with the 50.
I'm okay with the 50 too.
All right.
Yep.
I will have $50 as your action item for Monday.
Okay.
All right, so your second one, and Ms. Palmer, you mentioned that, is your sports fees. Again, this is something that has not been addressed, changed for eons. You do notice that golf does pay a little bit more because of course fees and things like that. But I would recommend you moving IESA to $50 and making IHSA $100 per student.
And what will golf be? 120?
I would probably keep golf at an even 100 just to make it a little bit cleaner. They've already, you're more than welcome to increase that.
What about the cap?
And what about the cap?
That's up to you guys.
Well, if you're gonna double everything,
Cap, double the cap?
double the cap or double the golf, or both.
I don't know,
Two s-
I did like how you kinda said though too, that that's an elective.
Mhm.
If you wanna do sports, you don't have to, I
No,
mean.
absolutely.
And you've gotta be able to afford it, it takes money for coaches, it takes money for uniforms, it takes money for buses, it takes money for gas, I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
if nobody else really does a cap, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And like, we've been blessed to be able to do it like we were before, where, we could redo fees, but times are changing, and can we afford a cap now? Because if we have a cap, can we afford to do and provide all the sports? By having a cap, do we have to say, you know what, we can't add a sport, or we can't have this certain thing? If that's what it comes down to, that we can't have a certain team in order to give a cap, I'd rather give more opportunities to more students. I mean,
Absolutely,
and the
I
amount
agree.
of people are paying for travel, $100 a sport is nothing.
Right.
I mean, you hear
Right,
people
yeah,
spending
we-
thousands and thousands and
thousands of
thousands for
dollars.
travel. $100 for a sport, I don't feel like is that big of a
That's
deal.
pennies to them.
If your child wants to play and it's something you can budget, and if, it's,
And I know somebody is going to say this, so I want to make sure it's said that it's not true. We are not making money on
No.
this.
No.
We are, as a school district, our goal is not to make money. If you increase that to $100 a player, you're still not even paying for the coach in a lot of those situations.
Yeah.
So,
what's I'm saying, the increase in fuel, the increase,
And uniforms,
yeah.
right,
and umps and refs.
yeah. So-
I agree. I don't, I'm not on this committee, I'm just voicing my, opinion here. I say that the sports cap comes off.
Not on the computer, but I
However,
agree.
However, does it come down to a family with 3 kids and they all want to be in sports and they can only afford 2? And one of them has to sit out? I'm in favor of a cap.
If we cap, why don't we cap it at 300?
Can we?
Because that's junior high and high school. And say, oh, well, I want to, my kid wants to play 3 sports, so it's $300 per kid. I mean, it adds up fast, and maybe that's.
Yes, it does.
And that's a decision.
I've been in that boat.
Yeah.
It adds up quickly.
But it also costs,
I mean,
it
that's-
costs more than $100 per person to play that sport.
A family cap right now could be fulfilled in one school year for one child.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now we're looking at multiple, and I get it, and I totally see what you're saying, it's just, that's like, yeah, I don't know, like, maybe a higher cap, for sure, but, I mean, if you consider like what that actually looks like in execution, then, yeah, like I said, one kid could break that. I didn't even know that there was a cap, and now with 2 kids in sports. But,
Let me figure out something.
I don't know.
If you're gonna double-
$25 is a little amount of money right now.
Well, and
I
that's the
mean,
hard-
for when you're
that's the hard
talking
thing,
about a
too.
full
I mean,
season.
We have our budget too, like, the main issue is to educate the children. And the sports, if we're spending so much money paying for these kids to do sports, that's really not the school district's job. Yes, it's a perk, and yes, it's wonderful, and it prepares you, and there's lots of life lessons, and yes, you can go to college on all that, but I would rather be spending the school district's money on things to help educate them than to make sure that their child gets to play all of the sports their little heart dreams of. If you can't, and I came from a very poor family, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. I know it sounds harsh, but what are we going to spend the district's resources on? That's my mindset on it, but I completely understand the flip side of it. But I want to make sure every child leaves this school district educated and prepared for society, for a job, for college, for. And yes, they learn a lot from sports. Teamwork, that's a job skill, I do agree with that. But I would rather be spending money to make sure we have qualified educators, we have qualified materials, than the fact that
Excuse me.
a whole family, all their kids get to play sports.
Right.
I'm okay with increasing IESA to 50, IHSA to 100. I would double golf minimum. Sports cap, I would say 300.
See, I don't think there should be a cap if no one else is doing a cap, but that's just me. If the other districts aren't doing it.
I also say
I know
no cap.
I know families that, you know, they have, you know,
But-
3, 4, 5 children.
I know.
And it's tough. I understand. But
I
if
would,
you-
I would say no cap or a $500 cap, like, with the fees going up, number one, and nobody else does a cap.
That's my thing. It's kind of like the same thing we were reimbursing for the college courses. Like, nobody else does it, and it was something that we were blessed to be able to do. And now we're not.
And again, because our operational expenses, yes.
Right.
Can we tie anything into, like we talked about, the fees being waived for, you know, free lunch and things like that? Can we tie anything into, like, sports, if you were a family that would have, you know, fees waived and things like that? Can we offer
A discount or something? Or
something to that? So then, if they have a family that is
And they're low
struggling,
income.
that they can still, you know, because let's face it, you know, people out there are getting their kids lessons and taking them to,
Yeah.
you know,
Weekends away.
right,
and-
weekends away, and I mean, parents are spending money on sports. But, you know, we know that that's not feasible for everyone. So is there a way that we can kind of tie that in and figure out if there's a, you know, that we can give some kind of relief to parents if they're in a situation where maybe they
See,
can't?
this is where a booster club would be so perfect if we had one of those. Because that is something too where we could, maybe the booster club could do scholarships
Yep.
and help people.
Yep.
If we had a booster club like that where they all connect and they all raise money and.
So are you saying that families that are eligible for fee waivers get a discount?
Or maybe entitled to a cap? I'm not 100% sure. It's just,
Yeah, that's an idea, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have enough information to answer that question for you.
If it's
so I
even
don't know.
allowed?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's allowed, but I don't want to give you an answer now for that.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of like how much, like if, say you had 4 kids and all of them played at least one sport and they're in junior high and high school, you know, then we have,
You're gonna be done by winter. They'll be capped at winter. Spring, if they play spring sports, it's no fee.
that's tough.
And I would think, I mean, more in junior high, they're more playing multiple sports. High school, you
For
kind of get to
sure.
where maybe you do 1 or 2.
Yes.
But junior high for sure, like, I mean, you've got kids, they're playing a sport every season, you know.
yeah, they want to try it out.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is really
absolutely.
fit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But if you get a whole bunch of kids doing it, then you can't take the activity bus, you gotta take a full bus. It uses more gas, then you need a bus driver, you can't have the coach, I mean, these
Mhm.
things all
It
add
snowballs,
up,
I know.
yeah. It's-
I know.
I'm trying to think.
And I'd much rather charge more to be able to give them the opportunity than charge less and have to cut the opportunities. Because we can't afford to provide all of them.
What about charging to, you know, I know we charge for our indoor sports to get into, like the games and things like that. I know that's kind of just a nominal fee. But, like, do parents get any, like, is there, my kids don't play enough sports, I'm sorry.
Well, you can, registration had the family pass.
Okay.
Which is what, $60?
Something like that.
Something like that. So all parents can get in for free, students get in for free. So basically, it's
You're away
the team
people.
you're playing against, or, you know, grandparents, aunts, uncles. I'm sure there's not a lot of revenue.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Or
And
with it.
and it's almost not fair to have an indoor sport charge more than, you know, your outside, your soccer.
Outdoors
baseball,
free.
Softball,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So,
Outdoors free.
I just wasn't sure if we give,
Unless you fence it in, right?
yeah, how that worked with the
Mhm.
pass to get it into the games, so.
So what I'm hearing is IESA 50,
Mm-hmm.
IHSA 100.
Yep.
I know Ms. Polmeyer said golf 120, which is doubling that. Does everybody want to see that? Just want to make sure I put something together, action item that is the
I'd say,
recommendation
wow.
of this group.
Well, what I do ask about golf, is that, like, is the $60, you know, because I feel like it's been updated since the other fees, like, is the $60 appropriate, or does it need to go up?
I mean, the additional $20 is appropriate for the additional things that they do. I mean,
Sure.
golf, I think last year spent $4,000 in tournaments and
Okay.
other things like that. So that's why they said, let's tack on another 20 to
Yeah.
help pay for all that. Plus, we have to pay for a golf course to go practice at. It's not like
Yeah.
we have a golf
That's
course
Okay,
here.
so do you think it's rational to charge 120 for it?
Right, if we're charging 100, then we charge 120 for golf, because that's the $20.
And that's a $20 difference. I mean,
Okay,
sense.
that's fine.
And if
Then
you're
do
doing
that.
50 for junior high, then you would keep it at 60 for junior high golf, or would you wanna up it 120 to junior high golf?
Double it.
That's a lot for junior high golf.
If you're gonna
But-
do one, you're gonna do all.
Is it any cheaper for junior high golf?
they don't do nearly as many tournaments. They just have and to be fair, their course fees are kind
Yeah.
of incorporated into the high school. It's kind of the whole program, the high school.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
they're-
it's not junior,
But
it's
they
not
only,
divided.
you only go to your regionals or your state or whatever like that, and like this year for junior high, he was gonna take 2, but 1 got hurt, so it was like 1 kid went, and they only played 1 actual course. It's literally just, for junior high golf, they just practice.
Yeah, it
That's all they-
really
they don't
is
do-
apples
they
and
don't do
oranges
these.
between
Yeah.
high school and
So
junior high.
Yeah.
is 60 appropriate there then?
I don't think there's a reason that we need to double it.
Is like even
Or if we
75?
go 70, if we do
I would
20
do-
extra
yeah.
and 20 extra.
Yeah,
You can do 70.
yeah.
Okay,
And it's,
all right.
All right,
then
so
let's
if we
that.
do junior high golf at 75, and then high school golf
Wait,
at 120.
we just said 70.
Oh, 70?
70,
Okay,
Because then it's just
70.
20
So then
more
it's
than
20
you
Okay.
have.
over.
okay.
All right. Well, no, it's only 10 over.
Right.
No.
50 and 70,
50 and 70.
20.
They're at 60.
No, they're referencing the
They're
standard
referencing
fee.
the normal fee,
40
the
and
activity
60.
fee
Oh,
is
okay,
50.
got it, all
So
right.
so it's comparable to.
I see what you're
yeah.
saying. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so I
Okay.
have all those down. Cap.
And now the cap.
I would be interested in what Brandy had said about some kind of waiver or discount or something for a low income. Because that's really who we're kind
Or
of
can
more
we,
concerned with.
can we put a cap on, can we do this in almost like steps? Can we put a cap on for next year, so it's not like, bam, now you're gonna get hit with all these fees and all these things?
This is for next
So-
year.
Right, I know, but like.
Like make a $300 cap next year and then.
Right, and then
Then maybe
maybe,
no cap
maybe
the
we
year
explore,
before or
like, we put a
something.
cap on it for
I would
next
be
year.
okay with
We
it.
explore that different option, and then maybe as years progress, then it's a 500, and then after that, they, or.
Slowly increase,
Right,
not just
so
wham bam,
not-
you go
instead
from,
of
you
it's
only
just
have to
like,
pay, yeah.
Yeah, we're just keep hitting you over the head with the
Yeah.
fees right now. Like, start with something
Yeah.
now, and then kind of review it and see how, if that. if
Everything
that
is
cushion
always under
helped.
review.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
So-
like that. So
I
do
would-
300
I would
cap?
say, I would say 300.
Yeah,
I would
Okay.
go with 300.
yeah. And we can always, I'd say reassess
Yeah.
how we're at and go from there.
Yeah.
All right, is there any, I didn't think about this, but you guys are welcome to adjusting into the other school fees. Now, school
I
fees
feel like
are
it's
the
a-
ones that are waiverable.
Yeah, and I feel like it's such a big difference from junior high and elementary to high school.
All right, here's my take on it. These have not been increased in
15 years,
3,
superintendents, isn't that like?
6, he was 6, minimum 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Minimum.
more than probably.
Yeah.
You want to do a flat percent across the board?
Well, I mean, high school, you end up probably having more fees because you have labs. But that's not even that, home ec is on top of that, right?
Correct.
Are your
Yes.
labs on
Same
top
with-
of that?
Bands on top of that.
Yes.
So why such the difference? Why 60 versus 200? Okay, it's just, that's such a, it's such a big difference.
Jack wasn't here.
Yeah, and especially when, like you said, there's all the additional fees on top of that too, I mean.
Those are extra.
Yeah.
Those
I
are-
mean, I understand maybe they have more curriculums, but no, not than the junior high, because you have your science share, so.
I mean,
even same in the elementary.
Especially
Those are
when you
your-
see from.
Those are your electives.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Grant Park has an early childhood program, I know, but when you see the difference there, oh my gosh, like, I would say across the board, just start with 100 more for each.
Well, I guess I'm kind of not even understanding why they're different. If they're covering the same things, why isn't it just we have a set fee per child?
Is
Doesn't
it
matter
because
whether
high
you're
school
elementary, high
does
school,
more
junior high.
like activity or?
No, he said those are on top.
I would have to go back and talk to that board why they made.
Like,
any-
I
when you
remember-
see Peatone,
Yep.
there's not much difference. There's, you know, like, and that's kind of where I feel,
Yeah.
I think that's more applicable.
But if you look at Grant Park, it's all the same.
Yeah, theirs is the same. Yeah.
Except for pre-K.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that's the early childhood program, where ours is special needs. Theirs,
REC is, yes, in lieu of.
but theirs isn't fully special needs. It's special needs first, and then they fill in.
But
correct?
actually, in the elementary, literally, I don't know if that's still true to this day, but kindergarten, say, was $27. First grade was 32.
Yeah.
Second grade, 35. I mean, they were all different for each grade level. I don't know. if
But that's what doesn't, I mean.
Still
Well,
the same, or is it-
certain grade level, you had to have
You had to
a
have
calculator.
extras.
You
Yeah.
had to have a certain
Right, they have
notebook.
extras, yes.
They have extra things.
But I mean,
That's
everything.
why they were different.
Yeah, everything now is. you
Now everything's a
provide-
flat
You provide
fee?
your own supplies. Yeah, it's just a flat fee. And that's if you look, like you said, Grant Park's $85. Even if you look at Mantino, 125, 150, 170. Marie Custer still 70, 100. I mean, I would feel better if they were all just, you attend the school district, you have a set fee. Doesn't matter if you're junior high, high school, elementary, I mean.
That's where I disagree, because there's different needs for each school.
So, timeout. Can you ask the administrators if they believe that numbers would be more appropriate? Maybe that's where we need to start with this.
What do you mean, numbers would be more appropriate?
So that it like, if you talk to the administrators and they might say like, no, we need more. We don't get a lot, but we need more, you know, or yes, the ES would need to be higher.
Well, your
and-
fees cover your curriculum and your teachers.
Yeah.
So we know we need more. We have $1 million deficit in that.
Yeah. Okay,
mean-
well, if you don't think,
They all use this, I mean,
And it's the cost of the curriculum
Yeah.
too is more
Yeah.
for
Right.
high school than junior high or,
well, yes and no.
Or-
Elementary has 700 kids, right? Or they're five, well, no, and they're only
Yeah.
like $500 or $600. They have a lot more kids. We spend a lot more money on curriculum down there than in high school.
but you have more
Yeah.
people paying it.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
So, but,
Yeah.
you know, if it's only $20 in curriculum and it's, you know, it's $100 at high school, you know.
Yeah, I feel like we need more information. What does it actually cost? Like, you know, like you said, yeah, and I mean, you have teacher salaries too, and that's, since we're a unified district, we're paying the same amount for the teachers, whether they're high school or junior high. So you
Right.
can't say that makes the difference, because usually your high school teachers get paid more. Well, here, no, we're unified, so they're getting paid the same. So yeah, it comes down to how much does curriculum actually cost for each child? Because like you said, we just don't wanna pick a number and overcharge, but apparently we are undercharging.
Severely
Yeah,
undercharging.
and that's the difference. Like, I don't want to overcharge just because we're in a deficit. I want, what we're spending is what
To
we
make
really need
sense,
to
yeah.
charge.
Right.
Well, allow me to do a little bit of work to get those
Okay.
numbers a little bit better for you.
I think 100's, like what Julie said, 100 on everything, I think that's a bit
Yeah.
steep. I'm thinking 25 or 50. You gotta start out slow. I mean,
Yeah.
you're coming in,
And you have increased the overall fee by 50 by adding technology.
Yeah.
Right, so you're
True.
coming in guns blazing, and
Yeah.
he's like, ooh, you gotta back
True.
off that
I
train a
just,
little bit.
I guess I just see like Peatone
Yeah,
in Mantino, and I'm like, you know,
yeah, yeah. But that's my thing too, it's like how much, you know, I just got,
They're gonna-
I just got new math and reading curriculum.
Right.
I was on the committees, I understand how much it costs, and that's what I wanna know, like, for sure, okay, if it's $2 million and that's your cycle for 3 years, divide that by, like, I know it's a lot of work, but really, how much are we spending to educate these children? And then what percentage of it are we going to charge the taxpayers? Because not all of it, I mean, of course, they can't ever cover all of it, but that's even just your curriculum, that's not even talking about salaries, because
Right.
it doesn't make sense just to say, well, we want to, you know, we're just going to charge $125. Well, what if at the junior high, it really only, $75 is adequate? Because we don't go through the curriculums, or we have a cheaper one, you know?
So I think he'll get that out to us then.
And then information too about the KACC, like what that costs.
Yeah, what's,
that-
yeah, KACC, how much is that costing?
I have a coverage meeting tomorrow, and I'll see what their fees are now, but it's,
Because that's even such a different, why is
Yeah.
that so different across the districts?
Transportation, I think.
yeah, it's primary. Well, it also is a tuition cost to us.
Well, but, I mean, for the difference in schools.
Like, we're
I mean,
doing
we
100,
pay 100,
Moments is
Moments does
300,
300.
P-Tone 200.
And if KACC charges everybody the same per student,
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause again,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's the
We're not-
weird thing.
but
If
again-
everyone's paying the same amount, then why are we all charging different amounts?
Right.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
but again, we're not in the business to make the money.
No, yeah. But that was it. If it really does cost us $300 and we're only charging 100, whoa,
Well, then
that's a
that
big
goes-
discrepancy too.
I also feel-
I believe it's about a $1,500 tuition payment for KCC.
each.
So here's my question. So if we voted on to take back or to
Not reimbursed.
not reimburse 50% of Prairie State, why are we giving them $1,400?
Because
That's
it's,
true.
to be fair, it's 4 periods of their day, so we're not paying a teacher to have them for 4 periods of the day.
But if
And
they
it's-
take
and
college
it's
classes,
industrial
it's also
arts,
periods
which
of
normally
merit,
we
right?
would have taught in school
Sure.
anyway.
Yeah,
It's an alternate to academics.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
but $1,400 is still awfully steep, since we just approved to remove the
Sure.
50% reimbursement.
True.
And they're getting-
But I,
But it's, yeah, that's apples
Or
and
am I,
oranges.
or I was
It-
gonna
it-
say,
I
right,
feel like it's
apples and
apples and
oranges.
oranges.
Yeah, because we would
Okay.
have like a shop program or an
Yeah.
ag program, we would have all of those here, we'd have to do the building, we'd have to do the teacher, we'd have to do all of that. And by doing, I mean, where I went to school, we traded, like, we had house building and the neighboring school had, or we had ag and they had house building. So we like bust our kids back and forth, kind of that kind of thing, other than us having to pay for our own, it's a way to
Yes,
share.
Beecher used to have ag and shop and,
in which shop is
Everything
so
on
hard. There was like,
cosmetology.
one year, there was like one graduate from an Illinois school
Up to- no.
for shop. Like, it's just gone.
That program is worth
Automotive.
its
Do we
weight.
used to have automotive?
It really is. That's not,
100%.
that's something I wouldn't have.
Yeah. It is.
I'm
I was
just throwing- I'm
skeptical
just
coming
throwing it
on
out
board,
there.
and I love that program.
But again, you have students taking the alternative route for college courses to prep them for college, and then you have students going the
Trade route.
trade route. And
And
it's,
see, I
right now
I
it's
guess I
not.
thought that they paid for that, like they had to pay their own fees, I didn't realize
And right
that
now,
we paid
it's,
for it.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's, the scales aren't even, and that's a disservice.
Although they are getting like the CNA and stuff like that, like the things that they're getting there
They're
are
getting
college
certified.
credits, you know, from here,
And
from
do they have to pay for
KCC.
their testing, like any testing they do, they have to pay for that, like?
That all goes through KCC.
Okay.
But
So,
it is apples and oranges.
Yeah.
It is apples and oranges. The Prairie State, AP, KCC.
Because KACC, it is like a high school curriculum. Normally you'd have as an elective, the college is not a high school curriculum.
True.
It's a
Right.
bonus.
Okay.
It's, you know, that's kind of how
It's
the
an
big
addition
difference is.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
We're
I see
paying
what
for
you're
your
saying.
higher education.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
KACC is general education.
Okay,
We just don't offer it here, so we're outsourcing it.
Yeah. In
Which
lieu of
saves
paying
us
a
a lot
teacher.
of money
Yes.
because we wouldn't be able to.
But it's still
we
awfully
wouldn't-
steep.
yeah.
I mean,
It is, but like I said, it's not something that I think is breaking our bank. And as Ashley said, it's a gen ed kind of thing.
okay,
Um,
all right.
all right, I'll get you an answer on those 3 other fees.
All right, so right now we're okay on the sports.
Yep, so I have $50 technology fee, I have a $50 IESA, up it to $50 on IESA, $70 on golf, IHSA up to 100, 120 on golf, cap at 300 for next year per family.
Correct.
And you put fiscal, so this is for starting,
All next year.
All next year,
Not this
okay.
year. So it's
Right.
not gonna kick in with basketball
Right.
season or anything, nope, it's gonna all be next year.
okay.
And then we're gonna review, you're gonna get us some more information, and then we're gonna review the,
Registration fees.
registration fees
Yep.
in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right.
Moving right along.
I'll
Yep.
set a meeting up for next month then for that. Okay.
And
Okay.
then the last one's the staffing.
Staffing,
And so I already said it in the last board meeting we had. So next year, excuse me, at the end of this year, we'll have two teachers who are retiring. Both of those positions are, one of them is art, and right now we're having I've already met with the executive board of the union on this. Ms. Black is currently reworking the elementary schedule, so art will no longer be part of the curriculum at the elementary. Along with that, what we're basically doing is the students will have a longer block of specials next year. So in lieu of a 30-minute PE or a 30-minute music class, it's going to be a longer one time a day, being 45 minutes. And then they'll have PE 3 times a week, and then the alternate special twice a week. Still falls within the guidelines of the legal requirements for PE in a week.
So does that increase their teaching minutes in classroom?
It still satisfies the requirement of the union contract that provides them 1 plan in a day.
Okay. Okay, we function on minutes in my district.
you said that very well.
It was that, okay,
I assure you, all requirements of the teaching contract will be satisfied by whatever we choose to do.
okay.
And then along with that, as I said, we have a teacher, a 3rd grade teacher who's retiring, and so we actually have one class grade level that has 4 teachers. We're just going to relocate one of those teachers down to 3rd grade, and so every grade will have 3 teachers across the board. Does that mean class sizes may go up a little bit? Yes. I know when Brad was here, you guys kind of put a 25 to 27 cap on it. Sorry. None of our classes are going to be more than probably 28, 29, but it's a thing. It was
Now-
one of the things I mentioned in the referendum.
So, I know there is not a rule for grades 3 through 5, but grades K through 2, that would mean we'd have to seek a waiver from the state, because that's too many kids?
We'll make sure all of our legal requirements
Okay.
are covered.
Okay.
At the high school, obviously, we don't have an art teacher quite yet. I'm still in discussion with Mr. Meyer about his plan for next year. My thought is, right now we have 4 high school parapros. If we were to take that art position and transition that certified position to a special ed position, which is a high need in our district, that is our largest growing population, that would give us a high school special ed teacher at each grade level, and because that would satisfy minutes, we could actually relocate one of our high school paras. As the turnover happens year to year, some people don't come back, and so you would save some money there by not having to hire a new para, by placing them somewhere else. And then obviously, I'll revisit that same conversation we had last year with the SRO position that's up in April. The difference this time around is you guys have to engage in another intergovernmental agreement versus last time when you said, hey, we'd like to sever, and the village said no. Now it
We're not
dissolved.
renewing. or
Now it
we are.
dissolves and you guys have to enter a new contract negotiation in April if you choose to do that. You obviously know where I stand on that.
Yep.
He's a good person.
Yeah.
That's a teaching position. And then also in terms of sports, I know we just talked about it. I've already talked to the union and I've talked to Mr. DuBois as well. There will be no freshman level sports next year at Beecher 200U. So that is going to be, I think it's for coaching positions. I have told the union that the coaches are more than welcome to look for outside volunteers, but we will not be having freshman level sports next year.
And let's
Again-
reiterate, the freshman teams are very small.
Yes, they are.
A lot of-
This incoming freshman class is the smallest in our district. There
Right.
is only 68.
But-
And there's also not a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Right, and there's not a lot of
Athletically.
freshman teams, they may have played,
To be
like
able
for
to play,
volleyball, like
yeah.
But
6 or 8 games, I mean.
Can freshmen try out for?
100%.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, leave me on Jamie and
Like
Barkley.
like our girls softball team, everybody knows we have a wonderful
One
softball
team.
team. It's one team.
One team.
And
That
if we
does not
have a
preclude us
chance to
from,
play their JV, we will.
just so I can say this openly, that does not preclude me from possibly adjusting JV sports as well. But right now, we're starting at freshman level. There will be no freshman.
And that really
level.
affects volleyball,
Volleyball,
basketball.
girls and boys basketball,
and that's it.
I think so.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
right now, this year, there's a JV and varsity for girls basketball. There's
Yeah,
not a,
and
there's not
yeah.
a freshman.
Freshman team, so,
So,
yeah,
but yeah,
okay.
so we're gonna see how far, once we start looking at those, where this takes us into next year. And then,
What about aides if we're increasing class sizes, especially in the elementary?
the plan, Mr. Herman, is anybody who's a general aide is maybe someone we don't need the following year. We have to make sure our special ed minutes are met. That's the difficulty of this. Again, respectfully, all things I said throughout this process of the referendum being required, the only way I can make this budget work is by removing positions. And we are starting to see the first couple dominoes fall.
Because we're entering into negotiations.
Yes, sir. They're aware of this.
It's going to be a hot button topic.
Yes, it will.
Agreed.
You have to legally do your sped minutes and you
Yep.
have to legally service your ELL students.
Yep.
Because if we get audited, that's where our fines come in, that's where our accreditation comes in.
Right.
I will assure you that all legal requirements will be met for 200U, whether it be EL, excuse me, EL positions, special ed positions, things like that. That's why I said the possibility of adding a special ed teacher at the high school would then allow us to reallocate one of those aides. In general, I think there's only 2 or 3 general ed aides at the elementary to begin with. And so we might, instead of getting 2 or 3 more, because we're technically still shorter than we were last year, Ms. Black kind of reallocates those positions to cover 2 grade levels instead of 1. But
And we do that, we share, like, even in our school, we have an aide that they do 4th and 5th grade, so you get a couple days, you get a couple days. And before, we just didn't have them, because it wasn't in our budget, we didn't have aides. It's a perk, if you can get them hired and you can afford them, it's a blessing.
I think a good plan of action would be, and again, people continue to ask about when we're going to try the referendum again, and I keep going back and forth. And you asked me 2 weeks ago, you asked me a month ago, you asked me 6 months ago. I think a good plan of action for our school district would be to put it on the next ballot once again. The worst thing that could happen is they tell us no again. But this time, I'm a lot more clear-cut of what's going to be removed. These are things that we can definitely move on and not lose a lot of our educational integrity with these things. Your next step is your educational integrity. Your next step is all extracurriculars,
Yeah.
all those things, so. All right,
Do we need to get
we do.
executive session?
We do not. We're
We do
good.
not, okay. All right.
No, we're not.
We're done.
Nope.
We're heading out.
Anybody from public comment? I see we have some visitors now. Anybody from public
No, I
comment?
just sent my parents to the gym.
Sorry.
Then they can come back.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay,
We're adjourned.
thank you.
Who else is on the negotiations?
You, me, and Ron.
And Ron. Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
I think
Any
we
date
need to
yet?
meet